In my country, the word for now means later. I want you now, or maybe later. For some men, the word no means yes. It means go ahead. It means no, I wouldn't mind at all. But I do. In my world, the word forever has an expiration date. The word trust is written with a silent H. And by H, I mean depends, of what I can get in exchange of, what I can get if I spill. How many words can you carry with you before you drop them, before they slip between your fingers, even when you want to hold them tightly, even when you want to keep them in your mouth now and save them for later? When I was 15 years old, I told my mother I was hearing voices. In fact, I wasn't, but I knew that something was going on and that I didn't like it. But because I didn't have a word for it, I needed to make something up. I was sent to the psychologist, and I can't really remember, but she must have asked me, "Are you hearing voices?" And I must have said no, because I wasn't. But because I couldn't explain to her what was happening, I was dismissed. When I was 15 years old, I started cutting my arms. The scars in my arms became my words. Then when my mother asked me, "Steffi, what is going on?" I didn't have to tell her. I could lift my sleeves and show her. She really didn't understand, and neither did I. Not until a couple of months ago, when I was reading a book called Daily Rituals, which explains the creative habits of some of the greatest minds. And early on in the book, they spoke about the writing habits of Patricia Highsmith, who would wake up every morning and drink a shot of alcohol. Not to live up to the reputation that writers have of being alcoholics, but to calm herself down. Her inspiration made her manic. For as long as I can remember, I have been a writer. But when I was 15 years old, I was so overwhelmed by my inspiration that I didn't have a word for it. And now I know that we need words to understand what we're feeling. The vocabulary of feelings is an underserved market. There are not enough words to describe the entirety of our feelings, and we're not creating new words either. It is not easy to stand here and give a talk about creating more words to describe our feelings, because generally, people don't like to talk about their feelings, because it is hard. But I believe it's hard now, because our vocabulary of feelings has been so limited through time that we have accepted it. The problem with accepting this short repertoire is that when people say less, they start feeling less. When somebody asks, "How are you?" of course, it is easier to say, "Good, thank you." When somebody asks, "What's wrong?" of course, it is easier to say, "Nothing, never mind." It is easier to wait until a holiday and buy a card because it has become difficult to express our feelings. It has become difficult to the point that when we're moved, we have to admit, "I have no words." Feeling speechless does not mean that we're incapable of describing our feelings. It means that literally, we don't have a word for it because they haven't been invented, because they haven't been created. So not only can we not understand exactly what we're feeling, but we can communicate it accurately. There are not enough words to describe the entirety of our feelings, and clearly, those words we do have don't honor the magnitude of our feelings. And you don't know how frustrating this is to me as a Latin woman, and a passionate one, I must add. I came to New York to go to college, and I started dating American boys. Then, I was no longer getting te quiero on my first date, or te amo on like my fourth date. Instead, I was getting, "I have feelings for you." I was like, "Feelings? Which feelings?" I was like, "Papi, you either love me or you don't love me." And to those boys, I owe an apology. I now know it was never a matter of feelings, as it was a matter of words. Language invites the internal world to come outside and play. It gives feelings which are undescribable but recognizable a space in our tangible reality by assigning a word to them. Through words, we come to understand our feelings. even the nuances between degrees in feelings. It is not the same to say, I love you, than to say, I love you so much it hurts, or to say, I love you so much I am so happy, but so afraid. When I was in a relationship with a former love of my life, due to long distance, we had a kind of digital love, a mediated by technology kind of love, a very verbal and textual kind of love. He is also a writer, so we used all the words we had available to us to communicate our feelings as expressively as possible. Yet there came moments when I missed him so much, I would be embarrassed to tell him. And we would be on the phone or chatting, and then I'd missed him, and I wanted to say it, and I didn't, and then there would be a silence. Unknowingly, he was the one that taught me this lesson of words and feelings when he suggested that we introduce into our vocabulary the word mamila pinatiapay. Mamila pinatiapay is a word in the language of Tierra del Fuego in Chile. It refers to a look shared by two people who are both feeling the same thing, but are both waiting for the other person to say it first. By introducing this new word into our vocabulary, we were able to recognize that we were both feeling the same thing. By introducing this new word into our reality, we began sharing language that allowed us to understand that our silences were actually confessions of unspoken love. The Sapir-Whorf theory of the relativity of language, and all theories have complicated names, proposes that our thoughts are directly correlated to our vocabulary. It explains, for example, how the Inuit have 40 different words for 40 different kinds of snow, which allows them to actually see and categorize 40 different types of snow. This theory proposes that we can only think about and perceive the world around us, and I dare say, the world inside us, depending on the words we have to describe it. Let's take the word heartbroken. For example, when a boy breaks my heart, we say, I am heartbroken. But let's deconstruct the feelings beneath the word. Heartbroken is a word which refers to a feeling of sadness because something happened and we don't like it. But it also refers to a feeling of lack of power and lack of control to change it. We're using this word, heartbroken, to refer to other situations. I've seen many times people watching the news and saying stuff like, it breaks my heart to see what's going on in, or I am heartbroken by the amount of poverty we're living with on the 21st century. We're using this word, heartbroken, which refers to a feeling of sadness, but also lack of power to change, to refer to our situations, to our emotions, towards situations that not only can be changed, but should be changed. Heartbreak is a word which refers to a feeling of passive action. Many experiences in my life have shed light on the importance of having words to feel fully. But I'm here to tell you today that the importance of words is not only in feeling, but in doing. Because even if our feelings are bounded by our words, our actions are driven by our feelings. If we don't create more words, new words, to describe the range of our feelings, we might not only be failing our feelings, but failing to act upon them. Because already there are not enough words, it is possible that we're not recognizing the power or the urgency to change those things that should be changed. It worries me that we don't have a word to describe how it feels like to watch a war, to watch poverty, to watch death, to watch injustice. It worries me that if we don't have a word to name the feeling of reacting to those situations that should be changed, we will be less motivated and less urged to change them. This one time, I was at the Virgin Records, the one that used to be down by 13th Street, and the guy at the cash register tells me he was trying to bring back the word rad. Amused, I ask him, how's that working out for you? And he says, well, my friends and I are using it. Our world is rad again. We need to expand our vocabulary of feelings. New words can be personal, or they can be shared. They don't need to be fancy to become widespread. but we need new words to protect the integrity of our feelings and the integrity of our actions. Imagine what the world would look like. Imagine what the world will be like the second when we create a word to react to those situations that should be changed. Imagine what we will be able to accomplish when we name the feeling of actively wanting to change the world. Thank you.